I threw the birthday gift my boyfriend made me in the trash to look cool for my friends. Now he's gone. He's not packing his clothes. That's the first thing that sends a spike of pure, cold ice through my stomach. It's 9 a.m. on a Saturday. The sun is streaming through the blinds, and the only sound in our apartment is the soft, rustling whisper of things being put into a cardboard box. He's in the living room, moving with a calm, deliberate silence that's 1,000 times worse than shouting. In front of him is a plain brown box from the storage closet, the one we keep for donations. One by one, he's taking out every single thing I've ever given him and placing it inside. The Audemars Piguet watch I got him for his 30th, the one that cost me 2 months' salary and made me feel so powerful when I gave it to him, is placed gently on top of a folded sweater. It's the cashmere one we bought in Vermont on our first anniversary trip, the one he said felt like a constant hug. Next are the limited edition Nikes I stood in a virtual line for 6 hours to get. He doesn't throw them in. He arranges them neatly, as if he's packing away museum artifacts. "Gideon, what are you doing?" My voice sounds thin, pathetic, even to my own ears. I try to inject some of the righteous anger I was feeling just 10 minutes ago when I woke up to find him gone. "Are you being serious right now? All this over a stupid joke? The silent treatment, really. Are we in high school?" He doesn't flinch. He doesn't look at me. It's like I'm a ghost in my own apartment. His movements are fluid and economical, like he's on a factory line. He picks up the framed photo from the side table. The one of us laughing on the beach at sunset. The one he insisted on putting there because he said it was the exact moment he knew he loved me. He stares at it for a long, silent second, then places it face down in the box. That's when the anger completely dissolves, replaced by a frantic, clawing panic. A fight I can handle. Screaming, crying, throwing things, that's a language I understand. But this quiet, methodical erasure of me from his life, piece by precious piece, is terrifying. I reach out and touch his arm. "Gideon, stop it. You're scaring me." He pauses his movement but doesn't pull away. He just waits, his arm rigid under my hand, until I let go. Then he continues, picking up a ridiculous coffee mug I bought him that says, "World's Okayest Project Coordinator." He's not having a tantrum. He's performing a surgery, carefully and cleanly excising every trace of my presence. And he's doing it while I'm standing right here, forced to watch. My friends, on the other hand, live on a different planet. A planet where value is measured in carats and square footage. Olivia, the undisputed queen bee of our little group, is married to a man who works in private equity and treats her like a beautiful, expensive doll to be displayed. Their lives are a curated Instagram feed of yacht parties in the Mediterranean, front row seats at Fashion Week, and casual complaints about the caterer for their Hamptons summer house. I once listened to Olivia spend 20 minutes detailing a silent protest she staged, refusing to speak to her husband for a weekend because he bought her a sapphire necklace when she had clearly hinted for emeralds. The currency in our circle isn't kindness or intellect. It's the brand name on your bag and the power you wield in your relationship. Their conversations, held over endless glasses of rosé, are a competitive sport in how to train their men. I love Gideon, I really do. But when I'm with them, his quiet, steady goodness feels inadequate. It feels like a liability. His job at a nonprofit, coordinating aid for disaster relief, is profoundly meaningful, but in their world, nonprofit translates to no money. He finds genuine joy in small, tangible things. The satisfaction of fixing a wobbly leg on our coffee table. The taste of the sourdough starter he's been nurturing for months. The silence of the woods on our weekend hikes. These are things I can't package and present to my friends for their approval. So I started to edit our life for them. I became a performer. The beautiful, hand-carved wooden spoon he once made me because he noticed mine was cracked became, in my retelling, a shopping spree at a high-end kitchenware store. I turned his sincerity into a story that would earn me points. I was playing the part of the cool, powerful girlfriend who had her simple, sweet boyfriend wrapped around her finger, a man who would do anything I asked. The truth is, I felt a knot of anxiety tighten in my chest every time we got together. Their casual talk of weekend trips to Aspen made my carefully budgeted vacation with Gideon feel cheap. So I'd lie, I'd exaggerate, I'd perform. And for a little while, when they'd laugh and say, "God, Stella, you have him so well trained," I'd feel a pathetic rush of validation. I was one of them. I should have known better. I should have remembered that one night, months ago. We were watching some stupid movie where a character leaves his wife for a richer woman. I made a casual joke about it, and Gideon's whole body went rigid beside me on the sofa. He picked up the remote and paused the film. He told me, in a voice quieter than I'd ever heard him use, that his own father had done the same thing. He left Gideon and his mom with a mountain of debt to marry a woman who owned a chain of art galleries. "It wasn't even about the money, Stella," he'd said, his eyes fixed on the blank screen, not on me. It was the phoniness of it all, the performance. He spent my entire childhood pretending to be this humble family man, and it was all a lie. The only thing I can't stand, the only thing that's a deal breaker for me, is a lack of sincerity. I just need to know that what I have is real. He finally turned to look at me then, his eyes pleading for me to understand the weight of his words. I remember nodding, putting my hand on his, and saying, "Of course, honey, I get it." But was I really listening? Or was I just waiting for the uncomfortable moment to pass? The party was my 28th birthday, a night that was supposed to be all about me. I'd insisted on hosting it at our apartment, wanting to show off the new furniture I'd spent a fortune on. My friends arrived in a wave of expensive perfume and clinking jewelry, handing me gift bags from Chanel and Dior. Olivia, of course, outdid everyone with a vintage Gucci scarf she claimed was impossible to find. They cooed over my new velvet sofa and complimented the caterer I'd hired, all while subtly scanning the room, taking inventory of my life and judging its worth. I was buzzing, a little drunk on champagne and their approval. Then it was Gideon's turn. He came over to me, a shy, proud smile on his face, holding a small, unbranded box wrapped in simple brown paper and tied with a piece of twine. The air in the room shifted. The lively chatter died down. My friends went quiet, their eyes darting from the plain little box to my face, a collective, knowing smirk playing on their lips. It was the look they got when one of their husbands bought the wrong thing, a look of pity mixed with condescending amusement. I felt a hot flush of shame creep up my neck. This was not part of the script. He opened the box for me, his eyes sparkling. Inside, nestled on a bed of black velvet, was a silver chain. The pendant was a piece of sea glass, a beautiful, cloudy aqua color, worn perfectly smooth by the ocean. It was an unusual shape, almost like a teardrop. "I found it on the beach," he said softly, his voice full of warmth, meant only for me, though the silence made his words echo through the room. "The one where we had our first real date. I spent the last few weekends looking for the perfect piece. It's one of a kind, just like you." He gently took it out and fastened it around my neck. The cool glass rested against my skin. It was so earnest, so Gideon. It was a testament to his patience, his thoughtfulness, his memory of our shared history. And in that moment, surrounded by my friend's silent judgment, his earnestness felt like an accusation. It felt like he was deliberately exposing me, showing them all how simple and unimpressive my real life was. I could feel Olivia's stare boring into me. I heard someone, maybe her, let out a tiny, almost inaudible scoff, and I snapped. The performer in me took over, desperate to win back the room, to prove I was the one in control. I let out an exaggerated, theatrical sigh and forced a bright, brittle laugh. "Oh my God, Gideon, this is rustic," I said, my voice dripping with a condescending sweetness I barely recognized. I held the sea glass pendant up for everyone to see, pinching it between my fingers as if it were a dirty bug. "Where did you find this little treasure?" "A flea market." His smile vanished. I saw the hurt flash in his eyes, a deep, wounded look that should have stopped me cold. But I was playing to the crowd, and their expectant silence was a drug. I needed their laughter to feel sane, so I doubled down, turning the knife. "You know what? It's the thought that counts, right?" I said, winking directly at Olivia, making her a co-conspirator in my cruelty. I unclasped the chain, which he had just put around my neck, and with a grand, dismissive gesture, I tossed it. It landed with a tiny, pathetic clink in the metal champagne bucket we were using as a makeshift trash can, right next to a pile of used, lipstick-stained napkins. I turned back to my friends, my smile plastered on my face, my heart hammering in my chest. All right, that's enough of that. Let's open some real presents. The laughter from my friends was strained, a little shocked, but it was there. I had won them back. I had re-established my place. But when I dared to glance at Gideon, his face was completely white, as if all the blood had drained from it. He wasn't looking at me with anger, or even sadness. He was looking at me with a look of such profound, shocking clarity. It was as if he was seeing me for the very first time. And he didn't like what he saw. The rest of the party passed in a blur of forced gaiety. I drank too much champagne, laughed too loudly at jokes that weren't funny, and posed for a dozen selfies with my friends, my smile feeling like a painful mask stretched across my face. Through it all, Gideon was a silent statue in the corner of the room. He spoke to no one. He didn't eat. He just stood there, his hands in his pockets, his face a blank wall. My friends, sensing the radioactive tension, made their excuses and left early. The moment the door clicked shut behind the last guest, the silence in the apartment was deafening. I turned to Gideon, the alcohol making me feel bold and defensive. "Okay, can you stop this now?" I said, trying to make my voice light. "It was a joke, Gideon. A stupid, silly joke for my stupid, silly friends. You know what they're like." I walked towards him, intending to wrap my arms around his waist, to kiss him, to erase the whole ugly scene with physical affection. "Baby, you can't actually be mad about that." He took a small step back, just enough to keep me from touching him. His hands came out of his pockets. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't accuse me. He just looked at me, and the emptiness in his eyes sobered me up instantly. "I'm very tired, Stella," he said, his voice flat and devoid of any emotion. "I'm going to bed." And that was it. He walked into our bedroom and closed the door. Not a slam, just a quiet, final click. I stood there, stunned. Then the frustration hit me. I followed him, rattling the doorknob. "Gideon, don't be so dramatic. Open the door. Let's talk about this." No response. "Fine, pout all you want," I yelled, my voice cracking. I spent the next hour alternating between banging on the door, screaming apologies, and sliding down to the floor in tears, begging him to just talk to me. The silence from the other side was absolute. Eventually, exhausted and defeated, I fell asleep on the sofa. When I woke up the next morning, my head pounding and my mouth tasting like stale champagne, the apartment was still. The bedroom door was open. He was gone. For a moment, a wave of relief washed over me. He'd just gone for a walk to cool off. But then I saw his keys and wallet on the counter. And a few hours later, he walked back through the front door, carrying an empty cardboard box. He didn't look at me. He didn't say a word. He just walked past me into the living room and began the slow, silent, heartbreaking process of packing up every gift I had ever given him. After he walked out the door with that box, a switch flipped in my brain. The terror receded, replaced by a hot, self-righteous fury. How dare he? How dare he be so cold, so final? He was punishing me, trying to teach me a lesson, and I wouldn't stand for it. He had blocked my number. My calls went straight to voicemail. My texts showed up green with a not delivered error. Fine, two can play at that game. My first call was to Olivia. I dialed her number, ready to launch into a tirade about Gideon's over-the-top, dramatic exit. I had the whole narrative planned out. He was being manipulative, giving me the silent treatment to control me, and it was completely disproportionate to my harmless little joke. I needed her to co-sign my anger, to say, "Oh my God, he's insane. You're so much better off without him. Liv, you are not going to believe what Gideon just did." I started, my voice trembling with manufactured rage. I recounted the morning's events, painting myself as the bewildered victim of his cold, unfeeling behavior. I conveniently left out the part about his father, focusing only on my joke and his insane reaction. When I finished, the line was silent for a few seconds too long. I expected outrage on my behalf. Instead, what I got was a hesitant, uncomfortable pause. "Stella," Olivia's voice was different. The usual sharp, gossipy edge was gone, replaced by something soft, almost like pity. "Look, that was really rough last night. I know, I said, relieved. He was so embarrassing, just standing there sulking. No, she cut me off, and her tone was firm. I mean, you were rough, what you did. That was really, really hard to watch. We were all kind of horrified. The words hit me like a splash of ice water. What? Horrified? It was a joke. You guys joke about your husbands all the time. We complain about them spending too much money or forgetting to make a dinner reservation, she said, her voice still quiet, but now with an unmistakable note of judgment. We don't humiliate them in front of everyone. He looked broken, Stella. Honestly, nobody thought it was funny. It was just cruel. My throat went dry. I tried to argue to defend myself, but the words wouldn't come. My entire reality, the one where I was the witty protagonist and he was the overly sensitive supporting character, was crumbling. The audience I had been performing for was telling me my act had bombed. They weren't applauding. They were telling me I was the villain. I mumbled a goodbye and hung up, my hands shaking. The echo chamber I had built for myself had just shattered, and the silence that followed was terrifying. That conversation with Olivia was the first crack in my armor. The rage evaporated, leaving behind a raw, gaping void of panic. For the next month, my life became a pathetic cycle of digital obsession and real-world decay. My apartment, once a stage for my performance, was now just a messy, silent tomb. Takeout containers piled up, and I barely had the energy to shower. My friends' calls and texts dwindled. Their awkwardness from that night had curdled into a permanent distance. I had become the drama they wanted to avoid. My only connection to the world, to him, was through a screen. I spent hours, sometimes entire nights, on his social media pages. He'd made his Instagram private, a move that felt like a direct, personal attack. I was locked out. My only window was Facebook, where I could see posts he was tagged in by our mutual friends. It was a special kind of hell, piecing together the life he was living without me from blurry background shots and cheerful group photos. Then today, I saw it. A friend of his, a woman I'd always been vaguely jealous of, posted an album from a beach cleanup event they'd volunteered at over the weekend. The pictures were bright and sunny, full of smiling people holding trash bags. And in the center of one group shot, there was Gideon. He was laughing, a genuine, unburdened laugh that I hadn't seen on his face in months. He looked thinner, maybe, but he also looked light, free. The knot of anxiety that had lived permanently in his brow when he was with me was gone. But that wasn't what made me drop my phone. Around his neck, against the plain gray t-shirt he was wearing, was a simple black cord. And hanging from that cord, resting right over his heart, was the piece of sea glass. My sea glass. The flea market trash I had so casually and cruelly thrown away. He had gone back. After the party, after I had passed out on the sofa, he must have gone back to that champagne bucket, dug through the wet napkins and discarded lime wedges, and retrieved it. He had rescued the one-of-a-kind thing I had tried to destroy. That's when I finally, truly, broke. The tears weren't for my own loneliness or for the friends I had lost. They were for him. For the quiet, sincere man who had spent weekends searching for a piece of the ocean to give me, only to have me throw it in the garbage. He hadn't just packed up my gifts. He had salvaged his own. He had saved the part of his heart I had tried to cheapen. The stage is empty now. The audience is gone. And I, the clown, am left sitting in the dark, staring at a picture of the only real thing I ever had, knowing I'm the one who threw it all away.